back to the Forces Central podcast. We are doing a long spotlight episode on AP Art History. Today, for our guests, we have Miss Hanline, the teacher of AP Art History. We have Jaden Harvey.
Hello.
Maddie Mabry.
Hi.
Kelly Miller.
Hi.
I didn't say hi.
They just know you're here. They just know. So let's just get right into the questions. Let's ask the basic one. What is art history?
Okay, they want me to take this one. So I'm actually going to quote my colleague, Miss Hazlitt. She was putting out the flyers essentially for AP Art History. And the thing that it says underneath it is 35,000 years of human creation. I think that's the best thing. The coolest thing to me about art history is essentially, I don't think there is any history without art history, because most of what we know of most cultures, we know from their artwork. I mean, what would we know about the Egyptians or the Greeks or, I mean, pretty much anybody without their visual art? And so I think that that's pretty much what art history is. It's the visual representation of who people are, what they do, why they do what they do. And I think it's super important, obviously, because it's what I teach.
Yeah.
You guys?
Art history. But no, I do agree with you. Like, getting to know all this information and stuff like that, I've come to the realization, like, the importance of everything. Because at first I was like, okay, why do I need to know where this art piece comes from? I don't know why that needs to be there. Why I need to know this information.
Before
but
you look at things and you're like, that's just pretty.
Yeah, Maddie, speaking to the mic.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Before you look at things, you just think, oh, that's a pretty piece of artwork. Mm-hmm. Those are cool colors, and the composition is a triangle. Mm-hmm. What else do I need to know? And then you learn the culture, the history behind it.
And it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, getting to know where it came from, why it's there, who the artist is just it's so amazing to learn about. Mm-hmm. I've kind of connected with some of the artists where I've related to, whether it is like personality wise, what they have to go through, how I can relate to that. It's really interesting how they put that in their artwork, because now when I do art, I'm like, how can I incorporate my feelings into stuff like that?
Because it's almost like you're leaving a secret meaning for the future, even in your own artwork.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't even say like you necessarily have to be like an artist to take this class, because it's really just expanding on history in general. Right. Because throughout every culture, throughout all of history, people have made art, from physical to writing to anything. And I think it's quite important to know that art, because it can give a almost first-person perspective on things, you know? Yeah. What was being made at this point in time that gives me a first-person perspective on what was happening in life.
It's like AP art, it's like AP World with a picture book. and it's perfect. Because it makes it so much easier to memorize things. Mm-hmm.
Although we also start at like 3 million years ago.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The first rock that somebody picked up and said, oh, that looks like a person. And they carried with them some way. Like, that's where we start.
Mm-hmm. I think we just answered the second question, what is, like, why is it very important to take this class, AP Art History? Like, you know, going back to what we were saying, it's just like adding that amazing layer of context that, like, sometimes we don't get.
I like to tell these guys that we're the why. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all know people do this and they have this war at this time period, but why? Mm-hmm. Like, why do we do this? And why do we do the same thing over and over and over again? Why can't we get that right? Mm-hmm. Right? And you guys can speak to that.
And I know, like, Kelly has said a lot that taking, like, AP US History, if you want to talk about that.
Currently taking AP US History, I've found so much topics line up with each of it, like learning about, like Ms. Hanline said, a war or something that's going on in the time period can help so much, because if you know more details about the art piece, it can give it a whole new depth. And also looking at art pieces that people did during that time period can help you truly understand what is going on during that time period.
And it's giving you, because, like, you know, I'm also an A-push, and, like, when you take these history classes, you're reading, like, from presidents, government officials and stuff, but when you read, like, a letter from a soldier, or you see a painting from someone in the war, you're not getting that president view, you're getting the soldier, you're getting the people, you know, you're getting more of the people there, you know, that's much more like you're seeing someone that might not have been seen.
Right.
And they're representing a lot of people that probably have been forgotten by history almost. And I think that's quite important.
The seated scribe.
Oh, yeah.
Right, is a common person. And it's from Egyptian. We would never get to see that.
Yeah.
Right, but there's a dude who just writes history, and there we see him, you know, from however many thousands of years.
Yeah, and one that was striking to me specifically from Egypt was Queen T? Is it TA?
Oh, TA.
TA? Yeah. So it's like a bust, which is just weird for Egyptian, like, because I had never seen an Egyptian bust before. It was like a full sculpture of a black woman. And I was like, this is new. You don't see this.
No, you don't.
It was just interesting to me, and it being a sculpture, it being a bust, it was like, there's the person in front of you. It's not an Egyptian like painting where they're all like stiff and skinny, you know what I mean?
And I love seeing things like that, like having her be a black woman. I can't wait to get into African things. I like seeing that because like the history I learned, it's so whitewashed, and being a black man, I want to see more representation.
Yeah,
and seeing
absolutely.
that there was people like me and stuff like that is like really cool.
And just to be able to put a face to the name. That's one of the most interesting things to me is like, there's no portrait from Anne Boleyn's lifetime. We don't know what she looked like. And I just think that's crazy.
She looked ugly.
Yeah.
Could have been the ugliest wife there.
Well, see, that's the only thing that we know about her is that people were like, she's pretty all right. Like, that's what people said.
Like Cleopatra, right?
yeah.
We all assume Cleopatra looks one way. She's a Greek, guys.
Yeah.
So wait, like, that's a whole other history question.
Right,
I was
right.
trying to remember like which wife Anne Boleyn was. Was she
Anne
the
Boleyn was the second.
She's the one who caused the divorce.
Yeah,
She got beheaded.
She was the one that convinced Henry to break from the Catholic
divorced,
Church.
beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived?
Yeah.
Wasn't given the divorce by who?
By Pope Clement. It
The
was
Giulio de Medici.
Well, there's your daily
Giulio de
history
Medici.
fact.
Oh, I see. I'm connecting dots.
Guys, we're learning something here. I'm learning more. So, like, we already kind of touched on some certain, like, topics, like African history, Egyptian history, but, like, do you guys, like, have, like, a personal, like, maybe artist, an art piece, an art culture? You know, like, personally, I do have, like, I'm quite a big fan of a lot of, like, Egyptian art. I think it's pretty cool, that type of history. I'm a big fan of Gothic literature. I think that's pretty cool. So, like, you know, do
I'm
you guys
gonna
have,
let them go first, and then I'll go last.
Yeah, of course. Yours probably, like, changes every year because of, you know, your...
No,
okay.
It's very specific.
Jaden?
I know my favorite that we've learned so far, because of course there's more to come, and I've seen some things that are coming and I'm excited for. But I think talking about Grecian and Roman art was my favorite because I didn't know a lot of the things. Like, I only knew what the world pushes in media and stuff like that about Grecian and Roman art, thinking that like everything is white and that's how it was, and learning that it was all in color, like it blew my mind in class. My brain was like, wait,
They were.
like anytime we talked about anything Roman in class, everything was new to me, and it was just so fun to go along and find out. It was like Miss Hanline was telling a cool story to us.
Yeah.
And
Let me add an additional part to this question. What are you excited to learn? Because, you know, we're just getting into second semester. So, like, what's coming up?
I know I'm very, of course I said African art, but I'm very excited to learn about this barber chair. It's from Puerto Rico, and that's where I was born. So
Puerto Rico
And that's
rise
a
up.
contemporary piece. So that's
and my mom's seen it before. I haven't seen it yet, but I can't wait to talk about it. Be like, that's me.
Yeah.
I've seen it before.
Puerto Rico for life.
I know Kelly has a very specific.
Kelly, take it away.
Well, it's not one that we've learned before, but I am absolutely obsessed with it. I based an entirety of my GHB state application on it, and it is the oil painting of the execution of Lady Jane Grey. And it is a piece that I will sit and just watch it, just look at it and pull all of it apart, because there is so much symbolism from colors to expressions. It's an amazing piece, and it just makes me want to learn more, I think, about Renaissance, Baroque, everything. And that's why this topic has been so interesting for me, because there's so much you can pull apart that can, kind of like I said before, completely change the painting.
And it's interesting, too, because it's a period. I'm sorry.
Talking to the mic,
It's
girl.
interesting, too, because it's a period of history looking back on another period of history. And that's what I think is so interesting, is that you see people of the past looking at stories that were of the past.
You have history of history.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing, because you see, like, and it's not even necessarily with that specific painting, but like history being told by the victors. And that's a huge thing in art history, because half of the pieces we look at for first semester are entirely, this is about power. This is about power. You see those acorns? The Delaware ovaries, they were there. Like, and I just think it's really interesting to see how people put themselves into things, like people putting themselves like next to Jesus, literally pitting themselves. Like my favorite thing ever is Renaissance artists putting themselves in their art.
It's my favorite thing.
Then, I love it. It's like a little Where's Waldo? Like, where's Michelangelo? Where is he?
He's just the flesh.
He's just the flesh.
No, I love that.
If you take AP art history, you'll get that joke. Yeah. But there was one that oh my God, what was it? I don't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, but the thing that's striking to me too is that they're almost always looking at the audience, where everybody else is immersed in the scene. They're like, hey,
I'm looking at you.
Yeah. It's almost like a tease. Like,
Yes.
I'm in here and you're not.
Yeah.
Guys, you two need to talk into the mic.
We need more of them. Come back.
Okay.
But I don't know if I have the one piece that struck me was the Winged Victory. It's Samothrace.
Samothrace, yeah.
Yeah. Just because I've always really, really loved that's Grecian, right? Or is it Roman? It's Greek. Yeah. I've always loved Greek things. The wet drapery is like my favorite thing ever, because like in that piece it makes sense. In some of the other pieces you're like, why are you all wet? But in that one it makes sense, because like just thinking about it in context, because for people who don't know, the Winged Victory of Samothrace is this, and you've probably seen it before. It's on all of our posters.
Yeah.
If you look at our posters.
It's there.
But it's this giant marble, and it has it's the Winged Victory, and she's like at the front of a ship, and you can see the wind like blowing, and just how did they do that with marble? How did you sit there and make it look like she is A, wet, B, windy? Like how? And just thinking about it in context, because in context it would have been like at the front of a cliff, right?
With a spray of the sea.
With the spray of the sea and the wind, and she would have looked, and she would have had a head and arms and another wing. But just thinking about it like fully, like that fully in context, and the power that it has, and it's a woman. That's cool. Because you can't depict women unless they're goddesses until like 14. No, not even 14. Until like 1750. Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of big historical pieces, and I'm always like looking at it and I'm like, this is really beautiful. How did they do this?
Yeah.
Like how did we get this? And like it's always just so interesting. And do we get to learn in AP Art history how they do some certain things?
Oh yeah, we played
Kelly
with
wants it. Kelly wants it.
Okay, so
here's the set.
So the other day, Miss Handline brought in a bunch of tools that they would have used to like carve this stuff into what it is, and she brought in a piece of like marble, and she had us all go at it and try it. We couldn't even scratch it. Jaden tried it, and we couldn't. Scratched it, maybe you break off a little bit of the corner. And honestly, just knowing that and trying that, knowing how heavy the hammer was, is insane. Because again, you look at the Victory, you look at the David, and you're like, what the
How did
heck?
they do that?
Yeah.
Everyone must have just been ripped.
Yes.
Michelangelo was buff.
Like, they all must have been walking around with these massive arms.
Oh, yeah. Oh, can I talk about a funny thing?
Yes.
Michelangelo women?
Let's go.
Women in quotes.
Yeah, so those just make me giggle. So, like, if you look at, like, a Michelangelo fresco, like the back wall of the Sistine Chapel, all of the men are like, I'm sorry, all of the men are gorgeous. And they're so, like, you can tell that he knows what men look like. And then you look at St. Catherine, that is a beefy woman. That she's ripped. Like beyond ripped. And it's just silly. Like silly little things like that. And it's interesting to see people's lives and who they were in their artwork, even if it wasn't intentional.
Yeah. That humanizes it. I think that's the thing, and that's what we love. We want to know, hey, these people from thousands of years ago, they're just like us. They have the same loves we have. They have the same hates we have. They have the same personalities we have. We've not changed, guys.
Yeah.
We're the same people we've always been.
Yeah, going back to like what I was saying before, when you read like government official people in history, it's just like, I don't know how they feel. This is like a speech, like, you know. But when you see this art, you see how they feel truly. Like, you know, you're getting the humanity in history almost.
That's a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
The humanity in history. Copyright, don't.
Can we use it though? If we put a quote?
Put it on the poster.
Yeah,
Nikki
exactly.
Melinda said.
Yeah.
Okay, Miss Hanlon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is my turn, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, I have two major, I'm going to go time period wise, okay, and then I'll tell you my favorite artists. My two major time period, Renaissance, Baroque together, because Renaissance just kind of bleeds into Baroque.
Yep.
And as I always tell the kids, I love Baroque because it's the day the Catholic Church turned it to 11. They're like, we're not going to back down. We're just going to be more Catholic. And so their art just gets more and more over the top, and I love that. It becomes a stage. It's this big performance, right? And I love that. So that time period is my favorite, plus all the stories of those time periods. All the Renaissance popes are my jam. And then all the conflict. It's just a giant soap opera, and that's why I love history. My favorite artist, which is strange, is John Singer Sargent. And so he is actually 1890s, which is my other jam, and Maddie and I talk about that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But what I had this like giant realization this morning that the reason I love Sargent is that, like Maddie said, he's just going back to Baroque. His paintings are exactly a copy of what they were doing in Baroque, just with a new style. I mean, he's like, here's Baroque with some Impressionism thrown in. And so, and I love that. Like she said, that's one of the coolest things about art history. You realize, oh, look, these people are looking back to the past. And like we always talk about, you got Greek, classical, and Hellenistic, rolls into Renaissance and Baroque, rolls into neoclassicism and realism. It's just a repeat of things. And so that's what people are like, oh, art history, you have to remember so much artwork. But you're just looking at the same thing over and over again for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's less about, well, I mean, here and there it's about specific things, but overall it's less about specific pieces of artwork and more about characteristics of different eras. And once you understand different characteristics, it's easy to look at a piece and be like, oh, that's Renaissance. I can just talk about Renaissance, you know?
Let's just build off of that and talk about kind of the classroom setting, because I know a lot of people see AP and they go, I'm not taking that. It's an AP.
It's a little intimidating.
It's a little intimidating. I took my first AP this year and I was like, oh. But like, let's just talk about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm letting them do this. This is all them.
It was,
you know?
I mean, it was really scary at first, especially because not only AP, I took one AP class before, and that was Lang last year. And going into it, I was really scared, especially because AP was being combined with history, which I have a really weird past with, because history, when it comes to, at least I love learning about history outside of school. But whenever I learn about history inside of school, the way that some of these teachers explain it, put me right to sleep. I can't do it.
History is so fascinating. It is just a long story. And I got that in knowledge in sophomore year of her being like, world history is just a long story. And I really appreciate that, because I have so many history teachers that take it so academically, where I'm
That's
like,
what I don't
where
like.
is the entertainment?
And I
You know?
sadly was stuck with like with teachers that are very like cutthroat about it, very like they
Here are
don't
the
want to teach
facts.
everything. Here, facts, learn them, test, go.
They're
And-
not adding the humanity of
and-
history.
and I always ask questions, but some of them were not calling out anyone, but like weren't able to answer my questions.
Yeah.
Which is like, aren't you a history teacher?
You know,
Yeah, and I never took like upper level history. But going into this, I did like Whitley convinced me, because I want to become a theater educator, and he was like, it's really useful. And he was an art history teacher before. And taking the class, I've fallen in love with history again, education wise, because Miss Hanlon, you know how to tell a story. you know how to intrigue me.
And that's what I think is so fun about it. And what I was thinking about in class today was the way that Mrs. Hanline teaches. It's like almost like a call and response. Like it's asking questions. You're not sitting and listen. I'm sorry, I'm excited.
it's not that you're excited. It's just like you're really close to the mic, so it's like quite loud.
Okay, I'll sit back here.
Okay, maybe a little closer.
Okay. Here?
That's going to be fun to edit that thud out.
Sorry. I'll stay here forever.
Do you want to?
Oh, that would actually be really
I'm keeping this all in.
Oh, shit.
That is very helpful.
Come on, Maddie, tell your story.
Okay. It feels like
I'm sorry.
it's like it's a story time, and it's not you're not just listening. You're answering questions constantly. And that's what I think is so fun, because I sit like front and center, and then she's like, "And what's this?" And I'm like,
I know exactly what
It also helps that like Miss Hanline knows you, like, you know your students, like who will be excited for what, and you'll look directly at us and be like, "Oh, Jaden, you'll like this one right here," or Maddie, "Oh, I know you know this."
I love getting called out. It's my favorite thing ever.
I have to applaud you, Miss Hanline, because I hate when I have a teacher that just genuinely isn't enthusiastic about the class.
Oh, I love this class.
Like, you know, like I am taking a science class this year, and it's so clear that my science teacher is enthusiastic. So like, even though I'm not interested in environmental at all, I'm like, I know the answer. I'm so interested. And like, I know that like you get that with our history, where people are, like might come in and you're like, I know how to do what I do.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, AP, that is fun. Let's talk about classwork.
Oh, it is not hard. Like it especially for me, because I've taken APs before. I was like, I'm a little bit worried about this, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to balance it.
Yeah.
It's literally just a vocabulary sheet and an AP classroom assignment for every unit. It's not even like weekly. It's per unit. And sometimes like Renaissance has taken us a month? Like
That's a lot.
you have a month to do 2 assignments. It's not hard. No. It's really not hard.
And it really helps your grade out if you need it. Okay.
It's a little bit of a grade booster. Let's talk about, it is technically an art class, you know, and I think people are a little bit discouraged. I'm taking AP Art History next year. I chose that like beginning of this year. And I've been trying to encourage some of my friends to take it, but you know, they're like, well, I can't draw. And I'm like, or they're like, I'm not that not that into art and stuff. And I'm like, this is a class, not just for the artists, but like for like genuinely for everybody, you know, it's a good class to take, because there are, again, pieces of history that everyone should know in there, you know?
Any artistic vision you may have, you don't even have to be close to art. Maddie is a painter, a drawer. I am a photographer, a filmmaker, someone who incorporates stories on stage, and it still is so useful to me.
Yeah, Kelly is a writer, and Kelly has... Like, I sat on a here, we can talk together. Okay. I sat on a FaceTime call with Kelly while you were doing your GHP application. And she used the art piece in her writing. Like, you use it for inspiration. You use it, and not only for inspiration, for knowledge. You, like, writers, like, if you do plan on doing, you can talk about it, so I'll shut up.
It was just so interesting getting to write about the art piece, and knowing the backstory behind it can help so much. And I walked into that class not knowing at all what I was expecting. Yeah. Like, I was just AP Art History. Whitley said it would be good to take, you know. Yay. And I walked in there and I'm like, this is not what I was expecting at all. But I am so happy it turned out this way, because I wouldn't have wanted it any other way, because Miss Hanline makes it amazing. Sorry.
Let's talk junior to junior here. Let's talk junior to junior here.
Alrighty.
I'm an A-push. You're an A-push.
Yes.
There are rising sophomores probably going to be listening to this. Let's tell them, if you are a junior and you're going to take A-push, maybe even going into AP World, art history would probably benefit you.
Oh, yeah.
Spectacularly.
Yeah. Because I have Dobbs as my A-push teacher.
Dobbs. Love him.
He'll put PowerPoints on the board, and there'll be like pictures, and I'm like, ooh, that relates to this through this, or this is from this time period. And it can help so much, even if you're writing something like a DBQ, or, because it is an AP course, you can be able to like sprinkle a little bit of AP Art History
you can sneak
in there.
some art in there. The people grading those DBQs will probably be like, I've never seen this before. Ooh.
They would be so much less bored. Can you imagine sitting there and reading, and then
the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah.
And all of like these things that are getting repeated, and then like the one student that like took AP Art History that's like, and here's this.
And this art piece shows this by.
Yes.
You know? And they're like, oh my God, now we're going to go look this up. You know? So, Ms. Hanline, do you have anything to add?
Oh, what am I adding? I forgot.
about like
just listening to these guys.
we're just talking about the students that might be a little nervous or a little discouraged by the AP Art History title.
Okay, well, if they're nervous about art, it is not a studio class. We're not drawing, we're not painting, we're not doing any of that mess. What we did with the sculpture was for fun, because most students, like a lot of my students who take AP Art History, never take another art class.
Yeah.
And so they don't know. They're never going to get the chance to sculpt, or they're never going to get to hold a chance to hold clay. And so I bring it in for them to be able to see, this is the materials.
And I just want to add, this is a class that you can join National Art Society with, or
Yes.
Okay. For anyone.
Also, too, there is no prereq. And I think that needs to be out there, because people are like, oh, I have to have a prereq in art before I do this. No, you do not. We take 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Freshmen, it's a little bit, we can't do it for freshmen.
Yeah, but like this is open to sophomore, juniors, and seniors. Okay. You hear that first. So let's just wrap this up.
Oh wait, I had a point I was gonna make.
What are you gonna say, Maddie?
That the only thing I was gonna say is that if you plan on doing literally anything, like not even necessarily art related, film, literature, anything, art history,
just
anything,
history.
History in general, you're gonna
Literature.
need an art appreciation credit. Art appreciation, or what was the other one?
Music or theater, but it'll count.
Right.
The only like pathway I can see in college, like not needing like this, is maybe like math. But even then, there's
probably have to have you might have to have an appreciation class.
But even things with like math and science, there's art on that. You know, like this is a class
the
like
Greeks is all math.
The Greeks, and then the painting, the School of Athens that has what's his name, Pythagoras in it.
Yeah, Pythagoras.
Like he's
What a great
chilling.
name.
I know, what a guy. Name my kid
Euclid,
that.
all those guys. Yeah.
But if you pass the exam, you get that class. Not to say out of the way, because it's fun, but especially in college, art history teachers aren't as passionate as Mrs. Handline is going to be.
Yep.
Most of the time, they're just kind of there because they want to paint. They're like, please let me leave.
Actually, we were I can't remember what school we were at, and we were at a college, and one of the professors says, oh, what do you teach? And I said, AP Art History. And they're like, oh, we can't get anybody to teach. We can't get any of our faculty. It was an art school. We can't get any of our faculty to teach history. And I'm like, what? Like, I'd teach AP Art History all day long if they let me.
If I could
I
talk
would
about
listen
just
to
like
it.
history in general for like all day, I would be happy as could be.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just kind of wrap this up. There are people listening. All of my millions of fans are listening. And so there might be someone out there being like, I listened to this podcast, but I'm not sure. So talk to that person.
Do it.
Please do. I mean, and I know another difficulty and another being scared is AP test. And I struggle with tests in general. And
Me too.
It's just the way my brain works is I can explain it perfectly, but the minute you hand me a paper, I'm like, huh?
The minute you get multiple choice, I'm like,
Yeah, but it's like it's really helpful. This class has been, because I kind of feel like it's been helping me raise up my like test levels, like my test taking skills for college and preparing me, that maybe I might not be doing so hot, but I know the information. At the end of the day, I want to pass this class, and I'm happy with all the information I've learned, but I love improving that and being able to start test taking better. And Miss Handline helps with that. With AP Classroom, having those outlets and stuff like that, the vocabulary. She's gonna help you now. She's not gonna let you drown. She's gonna help you out, and you're gonna have fun in the class. So join.
Yeah, and that was one thing is too. This is, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here. My favorite class I have ever taken. Period.
sorry,
I said that,
Mr. Handline.
I know. I said that in front of Miss Parisi, and she was like, "Oh," because I was in her lane class
sorry,
last
Mr.
year.
Handline. Sorry, Miss Parisi. Sorry, Miss Stern.
I'm not sorry. This is my favorite class. Period. Period.
Period. The end. Sorry.
Thanks. Kelly turn.
Okay. I think I walked into this class scared because I knew almost no one in that class. I knew Maddie, Jaden, and a few others, but I knew almost no one else. And I was really nervous because I was like, this is an art class. Or like I saw the word art. I was like, I'm not really that into art. But you get along and you meet these people so quickly. You're having open classroom discussions, and you may not know that person's name at first, but you're talking about the art piece like your best friends.
Yep.
And that is so comforting to the point where I look forward to this class every day. I may not see these people at all throughout the day. But when I come to AP Art History, you're my friend and we're going to talk about this.
We make each other laugh every day. Like there's always something to giggle about. Michelangelo and his grapefruit boobies, they're funny. It's funny.
Yep. Well, you want to end it off, Miss Handline?
Well, I will tell you, it will ruin your life because there are things that you see. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. And once you learn about columns, or we haven't gotten to African yet, but once you see African and then you go and watch Black Panther, you're like, oh my God, there's so much. And this is why I pick on you CFA guys all the time, because I'm going to ruin your world. Because once you see how much art history is in film, you can't unsee it.
Why would you say you're ruining it? I think you're improving
Well,
it.
I do too, but people are like, "Oh my God, Handlum was right." You can't ever go to a city again though, because you're always dissecting any architecture. You're like, "Oh, look, there's a Corinthian column." And
My mom hates me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, look what that looks like.
I have
It's
this
just like,
problem with like taking film now, where I know what's going on behind the scenes, so I watch a movie and I'm like, they could have done that better. And my mom's like, can't you just enjoy things?
No, I can't. If the costumes are bad, they're bad. They're gonna be bad.
If the lighting is bad, no.
That's the thing, is it makes film a lot more impressive to look there, to see like a Marvel movie. It's superheroes. They don't have to put that much effort into it, but
then
they
you get,
do.
like-
they do.
But they do.
And this is the thing, is like in the film industry, art historians, it's a big big thing.
That's what I tell these guys. You're not going to starve in Georgia if you're an art historian.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Marvel just alone, Moon Knight is all real Egyptian. Black Panther, all real African. There was another one. I was like, holy crap! Do you see that? That's the the one with the werewolf. The recent one with the werewolf.
Oh, the special, the werewolf
it's
special.
it's the Bayeux Tapestry on the walls of this thing, and nobody knows that unless they know art history.
Right.
So somebody on Marvel staff is a pure art story.
They know how to do
They
it.
hire a lot of art historians with certain focuses and things, and it's just a big thing in film because art historians, they know their stuff, and they're big in continuity, actually. Well, how much time have we been going on for? We've been here for 31 minutes. So let's finish this off. You have heard from 3 students in Miss Handline today. It has been a blast. You have made this class seem like the best thing to take ever.
It is. That was them, not me.
It is fun. It is going to help you a lot with your test taking, with your other history courses, with just everything probably in general, and having that, history knowledge, the humanity and history. It seems copyrighted by Nicki Melinda's trademark. But like this just seems like such a fantastic class to take. Absolutely. Registrations open up 23rd of January, and they close 28th of January, I think. 28th to 31st.
Yes. You could
They're
still
coming.
add it after too. I mean,
Yeah.
I added it.
Oh,
after.
I added it like the second week of school. Don't do that.
Don't.
If you can.
Don't do it now.
Do it now if you can. But
We love the counselors who don't do that.
yeah, kisses moi. But like, worst comes to worst, if you end up having to drop an AP and you're like, well, what am I gonna do now?
IP?
Take AP art history. Do I mean this so genuinely. Do everything you can to get in this class.
Yep.
You will not regret it. There's gonna be 3 periods next year, I think.
I hope.
Hopefully. I know that we went to talk to some classes. Spread the news to your friends.
Spread the word.
Send this podcast to your friends because we're famous.
To my millions of followers, share it.
And take this class because it's so underappreciated, and it sucks that it's so underappreciated.
Absolutely.
Because I love it so much that I could actually cry,
Yes.
genuinely.
To all my theater girlies out there, as your theater president right now, take the class.
It's not a request.
CFA, theater, humanities, STEM even, please.
There are so many STEM kids, so many. Jasmine White. If y'all know Jasmine White, she loves it.
Like even STEM kids, I have so many STEM kids that are like, I don't want to take an art. I'm like, no, take an art. It will definitely help you. But we are kind of running out of time.
Okay.
So we do have to end this. This has been the APR History Gang. And you guys heard it. Take the class. This will probably be uploaded during registration. I hope to God we continue sharing this every year because, like I said, it's a great class. Well, this has been Forsyth Central Spotlight Special Edition. Thank you.